Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the meeting of the Scrutiny Committee. I hope this is we're going to start to make some progress in this meeting. So, just first of all, I'll introduce people on the table here. Michael Bingham from what do you call it? Democratic Services. Jason Spencer, again from Democratic Services. Claire Allen, who's going to be presenting the report on KPIs and performance against corporate. Without further ado, should we go into the agenda? Jason, have we got any apologies for absence?
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies for absence from Councillor Slack, Councillor Dobbs, with Councillor Linthwaite here as substitute, and I've noted Councillor Nash is also not here.
Okay, thank you. And we have no members of the public for public participation, so we can go directly on to the minutes of the last meeting. So would anybody like to move the approval of those minutes? Sue Bull and Roger Shelley. So anybody like to comment on the minute before we vote? No? All those in favour? Okay. So I think, interests. So does anybody have any interest to declare on the work programme or on the corporate performance report? No? Okay. So no interest to declare. In that case, can we move directly to item number 5, the scrutiny report work programme? Jason, I think you're taking.
Thank you, Chair. I'll start off by saying in introducing this report is as much for myself and Caroline's benefit as it is for you. Both of us, we weren't actually in the roles we're in at the moment last time this committee met. So what we're attempting to do is try and create a line in the sand, if you like, so that we get everything. We know where we are on the various work programme for scrutiny, and then we can help you deliver on it, because we are conscious that some of these items that are in your work programme have been in there a long time, and we want to see what we can do to help you move them on. So that's the basis of the report. So you may recall that at the previous meeting you agreed the priorities which are set out in paragraph 1.3 of the report. In terms of items within your work programme for the current civic year. So there was the element of reviewing the KPI reports regularly, and we've got that on the agenda for today's meeting. The next priority was the review of consultation and engagement processes. The third one in priority was the one regarding flooding in the Derbyshire Dales, and then the final one was an understanding on the relationship between DDC and EMCA going forward. Since that meeting, we've had a discussion with the Chair, and I think Councillor Shelley is lead on the task group relating to EMCA. There's a proposal here that we actually move that up the priority slightly because of the timescales involved and the work that's already been done on it. There's a suggestion that should now be a higher priority, so we move that up the priority order. You'll see later down in the report, I've gone through each of the topic reviews, and again, I'm looking for a steer from you here in terms of the terms of reference for each one. So we've attached as an appendices the terms of reference for each of the task and finish groups as we understand it. And we've also included our understanding about who the members of those task and finish groups are. So again, I'm looking, Chair, for today some confirmation about who the members are involved. It's important not only for organising meetings but also for members' allowances purposes, because we have to have a formal approval from a committee in order to make it an approved duty if it involves travel and subsistence. So that's what we're looking for. I've had an update from Councillor Dobbs, who sent his apologies this evening, but he has told me that since the minutes that I referred to in terms of the consultation and engagement processes, a couple of the members who were appointed to that group are no longer a member of the Scrutiny Committee. So that was Councillors Whitehead and Councillor Linthwaite. So he had approached Councillor Bond to be a member of that group. So there's a slight amendment there to appoint Councillor Bond to that group, and Councillors Whitehead and Linthwaite are no longer involved. And if there are any other members here this evening who want to be involved in that task and finish group, then you have to speak up now. I suppose the other thing is whether any of the leads who are here this evening want to provide an update on any of those reviews about where we are so far. The aim is, after this meeting, once we've agreed the group composition and we've agreed the terms of reference, then we'll start trying to help facilitate some meetings, carry out some research on your behalf, those sorts of things, so that we can actually move these issues on a bit.
Okay, thank you, Jason. Before we move on to that, I've got a proposal for another work group, and that would be concerned with the implementation of the nature. What was it again? The nature delivery plan, which Council agreed last year, and it really is all it extends into all areas of council work, with various actions required, and it's not clear whether those actions are taking place, because it's very much distributed, and it would be useful if we could. It's been suggested by Matt Buckler that it would be useful if we could ensure that that particular plan and the actions within it actually take place. So I don't know if anybody would like to comment on that. Laura?
I'm very much in favour of that being added to the work programme.
Right, okay. Would you like to move it?
Yes,
that we include that
definitely.
in the work programme? Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody second that? Joe Linthwaite, okay. Anybody want to comment further? Councillor Bond.
Is just a question, Chair. Is this a new conversation, or is it part of an existing conversation that's taken place elsewhere? I'm just thinking about has some of that work already begun, or is this a fresh piece of work regarding scrutiny?
It's a fresh piece of work regarding scrutiny. There is a
Right.
parallel. There would be a parallel input into the local plan, but that is very much focused on the local plan itself, whereas this particular plan is really looking at all council work, and it requires that any report coming to council not only has a net zero assessment against net zero, but also an assessment against biodiversity, and that's not happening universally at the moment.
So, Chair, in terms of a piece of work, does that relate to some of the projects? Is this is not a new project? This is just a report back, is it? Or,
It would be an assessment of what has happened, yes,
Right.
and then a report back, as happens with the corporate plan, for example.
Right. Okay. My only query about that was, is there an area of one of my concerns, Chair, is that when I look through all the areas of work, the projects, that I wondered whether some of them ought to be grouped together and come under one heading with various subheadings, rather than all of them to be listed separately. And sometimes I feel that some of our target work can be skewed as to what's been completed, what's partially completed with concerns, and what's not been undertaken at all, when actually some of those projects, if you like, could probably be grouped. So instead of not undertaken at all, 5, it could be 1 or it could be 2, for instance. I don't know if I'm just straying off the point there, or whether this falls under an area that is already, that's why I was asking, has it already been started? And is this just an addition, or is this a completely separate kind of aspect? Does that make sense to you?
I think I looked through the list, the corporate plan papers this afternoon to see whether it was included there, and it doesn't seem to be included in that list.
Right, I'm happy.
Claire, could you comment on that?
If I can work the technology.
No, you're right, you're on red.
Right, thank you. I believe it's not showing in this year's corporate plan reports because it's been marked as completed. So the project was to do the plan, and now that the plan has been completed, I don't think there's been follow-up actions. As you said, it's quite diverse. So my understanding of it was that those would then be monitored and progressed in their specific areas.
Okay, is that clear? Laura.
Just to clarify, I'm just going from memory here, but I think... I think that this is an issue that Matt Buckler has raised previously, and I can't remember in what forum, whether it was in full council or not. But essentially, we have a nature delivery plan which made recommendations, which I think were approved, and then nothing further appears to have happened. So I think what we're being asked to investigate is that nature delivery plan in place, and are we supposed to be implementing it, and are we implementing it, and if we're not, then why not? And it also has a budget significance. As we go into the next budget round, we need to identify what resources we need to make sure are ring-fenced to do the implementation.
Okay, so I said that it was really a review and report back. Are you suggesting that we need to have a working group to undertake that review?
I don't actually know whether a working group would be able to investigate that, or whether this is something that we need to come from the officers, really.
So perhaps we could have a review and report back to this committee of the actions that have been taken against that plan, and then as a consequence of that, we would then perhaps think about what actions need to be undertaken subsequently. Sue?
Yeah, thank you. Could this be put, you obviously, as what I've just said, that part of it has been done, and obviously we all need to get together, so can it not be put on an agenda for us to look at as a group at this meeting, and review it in that aspect? Because if half of it has been actually done, and they've gone out and sourced whatever they wanted to, and then we work and say, well, is that worth the costings to go into doing that, and review it in that light, but all as a table rather than in a separate group coming to do it? Because if we're going to be scrutinising what's been done and how it's been done, then it would be better that we all sat and looked at it as a group here, if we're going to be scrutinising what already has been put together. So maybe putting on the next agenda that get all the information that's been found out so far, and review that.
I think what has been done, Claire, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that a report has been written and it has gone to council and it's been approved. It went to C&E in July last year and it was approved. I think that's the end of what has been done. So now the plan has, being a plan, has various actions in it, and the issue is, have those actions, are those actions being delivered, or are they not being delivered? And because they cover the whole of the council, I think it probably is like the corporate plan. It needs a review of the actions that have been, a review across council, with inquiries across each of the departments, and to determine whether the actions that fall to those departments have been carried out. And then if we get a paper back along those lines, we will then be able to determine what actions council needs to take subsequently. And Caroline suggests that we also should be looking at the success. What we're doing is trying to evaluate the success of the plan as well. So I think the proposal is therefore, in discussion, is therefore for a review of the success of implementing the local or the nature delivery plan that was passed in the C&E in July 2024. Anybody have any further comments? Okay. So Laura, you've proposed it. Joe, you seconded it. So should we go straight to the vote? All those in favour of carrying out that review? And that's unanimous. So thank you very much. But we've got to go back to the work plan now, haven't we? So are there any? I think Laura, you had some comments on one of the tasks in this work plan, the flood investigation.
Yeah. Are we dealing with that now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry. I've reviewed the draft terms of reference, and it just occurred to me that in the preamble, it reads slightly as if findings have already been made. So rather than appearing to prejudge the questions, I think perhaps we should look again at the draft terms of reference for the flooding group, in the way in which we word the questions and concerns that we're looking at.
Right. Okay.
But that would be quite a sort of a big drafting exercise. So it might be better for it to be left to the group themselves to work through.
Okay. Does anybody have any comments on the terms of reference for the other two projects? Roger?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, and thank you, Jason, for getting your head around my email and the content of that. Apologies, by the way, particularly Jeff, Councillor Bond. You may have noticed I sent something out from my personal email. This was at a point in time when my council one was down, so I hope that didn't scare you too much. But that also went out to the other four allotted members of the Task and Finish group, who are Councillor O'Brien, Councillor G, Councillor Buttle, and myself. So they've all seen this, and now the rest of you have seen these very, very short draft terms of reference, actually, which I think are okay. The only one which I would say maybe is not really a standalone one by itself is the final one there, which is that reference to the Prospectus for Public Service Reform, which is a very grand title for something which I don't think MCA necessarily owns. I think they're looking to adopt it. So it's not a work stream for them in itself. I mean, it's interesting to look at, but it's a sort of it's an adjunct to the main areas that they have in their forward plan. The first four of those that I list there: business growth, net zero transition, climate resilience, housing and regeneration, and spatial development, which is really part of the local plan process. Those are all four areas where this council has, at the moment, very direct responsibilities, and I picked those out from a list of 7 or 8 that are in MCA's corporate plan for this year. They only have one for this year at the moment. And they directly align. So I thought those were the most relevant ones. I'm happy to keep the final bit in there because I think it will be an ongoing subject for discussion as well. But rather neatly, those 4 areas there match the number of people that we have on this group as well. So I half hoped that I would have some volunteers perhaps to look at each of those from within the working group. I'm happy to obviously be one of those myself. So I suppose what I'm saying there, I'm wrapping up that I'm happy with those terms of reference. It's quite limited in terms of the verbiage there, but obviously the scope of this is potentially quite broad. My intention would be for us to complete and finish this by the end of the year, and I'm buoyed in that by the fact that I know, Chair, you are involved with Councillor O'Brien already in discussions with MCA about the local plan. So the spatial development aspect of this, I would think, would be very, very neatly taken on by yourself, I'm hoping. Should be something you can do in your sleep, I would have thought, probably. So coming back to the terms of reference, are there any suggestions for alterations to those?
Laura, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it just occurs to me, and I think we discussed this last time, that one of the things this particular group could usefully do is identify whether there's anything that this council should stop doing to avoid duplication of cost and effort with MCA.
I think that's... Sorry, thank you. I think that's probably implied in the first paragraph there, but if we wanted to spell it out, we could put in a line at the end there saying, lessons learned from this will be applied to limiting the work streams that this council carries out from here going forward, if you wanted to. I think we're all in favour of focusing on things that need to be done.
Yeah, avoiding duplication.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Sue?
Yeah. When we discussed that we were putting these groups out, obviously Roger was going to be the lead in this, and you've said you've been and talked to other members now of the council. Can we have a list, and obviously for Jason's benefit as well, because he did say he wants to know who's going to be part of the task and finish groups. So for all the benefit of all of us, is that a possibility that you can name which councillors are going to be on that particular task and finish group, please?
I think that goes for all of them, really. I think.
Yeah, well, it does, yes, but
Yeah.
obviously we were dealing on that one. But I know Jason did say that, I think we agreed that you was the lead in that. We'd got Councillor Dobbs was going to be on to the consultation.
And I will
Yourself
lead, yeah.
was on the other.
Flooding one.
So I don't know. Were you on the flooding or the?
I'm flooding, yeah.
Right. So we've got one on MCA, and there was 4, wasn't there? Well, there was 3, and then the 4th.
If the 4th one is a review, then we won't need. We'll not have a working
Okay.
group.
No, that's fine. So obviously, it was a case of one of us members from here was, and then you was going to ask a person from the council from different parties to be joined in. So obviously, we need to know who they are, and with each one. And as regards the terms of reference, I think it's there, and obviously, like you said, there's work already being done, in a sense, and we do need to be saying, and I quite agree with Laurie, saying that, we've got to find out which position and what we're not duplicating work that other people are doing, because we haven't got the resources to do it in the first place. So.
All right. Any other comments? So, Roger, can you provide the names to Jason for that group?
Yes, so I mentioned them just now. So it's so this is as a result of informal discussion between myself and the group leaders. So it's Councillor Bond, Councillor O'Brien, Councillor G, Councillor Buttle, and myself for this particular one.
You've got Peter Dobbs's names.
Yes.
And I'm
yes,
remiss,
yeah,
so because I haven't asked yet, because I thought it was the last, because we'd agreed to delay that one so that we could start the consultation and now the MCA review before that. So I will be doing that in time for the next meeting.
Right. Thank you. Just for clarification, Chair. So the review on consultation and engagement, at the moment we've only got Councillor Dobbs, Councillor Bond and Councillor Edwards-Walker on that. So if any other members want to get involved, then there are spaces.
So Labour hasn't put anybody forward, and the Greens haven't put anybody forward. So, Laura, do you think the Greens will want to put anybody forward for that?
I have asked, and I'm not sure anybody has the capacity, but I will
Okay.
refloat that.
I imagine we can put another member in from if they arise. Okay. Is any more comments, Roger?
So yes, Chair, I think we had a proposal for an amendment to the terms of reference for the EMCA DDDEC study. I'm not sure. Did we clock that? We certainly haven't voted on that yet, have we?
We haven't.
No, we still need to approve that, but I've made a note of it. I mean, if you wanted to move everything together, you could do it as one. So you could, for example, approve the membership of the relationship of the task and finish group on the relationship between DDDC and EMCA, and the draft terms of reference at the same time as amended. That would be fine to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a form of words for you now, I think.
Yeah.
So I've got, based on Councillor Melstrom's suggestion, lessons learned from this study will be used to streamline the work programme of the Council.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So do we have a mover and a seconder then? So Roger, are you happy to move the 2 recommendations? So to note the update on the work programme and amend previously agreed priorities so that work on the reviews on consultation and engagement in the relationship with EMCA commenced before the review of the flooding. And secondly, to approve the terms of reference and task group membership for the reviews identified in the work programme, as far as we've got them. Okay, and then we're also then moving the amendment to the terms of reference for your your task group, and we've already voted on a further review, which will form part of the work programme. So all those in favour of the 2 recommendations. Oh, have we got a seconder, by the way? Yes, we do. You're seconded. Okay, all those in favour of the 2 recommendations. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. So we move now on to Claire Allen's report on the corporate plan and KPIs.
Thank you very much, Chair. We are now reporting on Q1 of 25 and year 2025-26. Always getting the years straight is difficult. So we're now in the 2nd year of the 24 to 28 corporate plan. At the end of last year, just to recap, 24 of the 98 corporate plan projects were completed, and over half, 54.1%, were on track to complete in full. So quite a positive end to the year. It meant that we rolled into year 2 with 76 corporate plan projects to be monitored. And at the time, as we started a new year, 25-26, we also undertook a review of the KPIs, mainly in response to external pressures. So we were reporting on 11 measures that were collected nationally by Oflog. Oflog, the Office for Local Government, has now been closed and its responsibilities moved, so they were no longer providing that national benchmarking, that national data. So they have been removed for the moment. We are considering whether they should be replaced. The majority of the ones that were removed focused on finance. Now, obviously, there's a lot of financial information provided regularly within council meetings, budget monitoring reports, etc., etc. So we're looking to see whether there are any financial measures that we can report that provide extra information that isn't already provided, that also wouldn't be too onerous for finance colleagues to provide, given the work that they already do to provide a clear picture of finances. So they're sort of being investigated at the moment. We kept one Oflog measure, which was about the number of upheld complaints per 100,000 people of population. slightly amended to reflect the way we report it internally so that it's a bit more meaningful to our work. There was a new indicator added, which was the percentage of corporate plan projects listed as on track, to kind of summarise the overall progress towards the corporate plan in one simple measure that's easy to understand. And we did some quite significant amendments to the street cleansing indicators. So one new indicator was added, and this was the resolution speed of dog fouling and needles incidents. These are the highest priority incidents for the Clean and Green team, and when those are reported by the public, they are attended to within 2 working days. Now, other street cleansing incidents such as littering or just general street cleansing has a much lower priority, and the working days required to hit targets is lower. So I'll read from point 112 in my report. Changes were made to the street cleansing indicators to reflect the high priority given to clearing dog fouling and needles, and report on these separately. So 80% of those incidents cleared within 2 working days is the target that's been set. Then the target, just looking at point 1.13, the target for street cleansing, littering or other incidents was then amended to 70% of incidents within 10 working days. So we've sliced the indicator to show how responsive the team are to the very high priority things, and then it shows that they're working on the other things but with a slightly longer time scale. And fly tipping was also amended to 80% of incidents cleared within 5 working days. And when we move on, you'll actually see how moving the way that we report has really shown a difference in the performance of those teams. And the Clean and Green manager, I hope she doesn't mind me actually quoting her, but she'd always said, we are doing good work, but the indicator is not showing it because it's not specific enough to what we're doing. It's putting everything in one basket, and that's not how we work. So hopefully this now provides a clearer, better picture of the work that they're doing. I did provide you with a benchmarking report specifically for our authority last time. Again, there have been changes made externally. So in point 117, I can now provide you with a link, and what this now does is will give you specific data if you want to compare our performance in specific areas. So instead of giving an overall report, what they're now doing is giving very specific waste benchmarking or benchmarking against planning. So it was a little bit unwieldy to bring to you. Can certainly assist if that's something you would like to look into further, but you would get reports on every aspect of performance. So there's about 8 or 9. So the link is there if that is something that you'd like to follow up, how we compare to other authorities. And then I'm going to put the Q1 corporate performance report hopefully onto the screen. And just quickly have a look through this. It's generally very positive for Q1. We've already completed 4 projects. 48 of the 76 are on track. There's a small number 7 that are on track with concerns, so people are starting to raise suggestions that there's something veering off track that we need to manage. There were 13 projects off track, but that is only 17% of the total. This report then highlights some graphs and charts that are held on the corporate project tracker, and this is to give a better understanding of kind of where we are. So on that right-hand pie chart, you can see that the vast majority of projects are showing us on track, so that's quite a positive statistic. And there's a little table there. I've also included commentary on the P1 projects, so they are in the main on track, and looking at the projects separately by their priority as well. This is all in your paper briefing, and this has been provided. I'll quickly move on to just summarise what I said. We have got a lot of successful projects. 63% of the 76 projects were on track, and we've got updates in the report and I've summarised and pulled them out because this is the really big one with everything on. But we've got good work ongoing on the local plan, the Traveller Site Finding Commission, their Stage 3 work is completed, they're awaiting an art report prior to reporting, work on flooding is going well, so through the report there's some picking out of the key projects, things like affordable homes, the implementation phase is now in progress, work continues on Ashbourne Reborn, there's work ongoing on the leisure services contract options appraisal, the negotiation of 5-year extension has begun with Freedom, there's work being done by the waste team on the end of waste contract, and all of these projects are on track and progressing well. There were 13 projects off track, and so these are also highlighted so that managers and yourselves can have a look at what's happening there. The PSPO, Public Spaces Protection Order, that was marked as off track at the end of last quarter. I believe that's now kind of pulled itself around, and in this quarter that's now been successfully completed, so that's really good. The projects, there are 3 projects within one about electric vehicle chargers in our car parks. Buckinghamshire has provided a very detailed update on that. A lot of difficulties because of the nature of the project, working in partnership with county and all of the other district councils, and also then the private providers who are bidding or competing to do these. 4 of the environmental projects around climate change, renewable energy and emissions were discussed at the Climate Change and Biodiversity Working Group in this quarter because they were considered off track at the end of quarter 1. And so I know that at that meeting it was agreed that there will be a review of the strategy and to look at what is reasonable within those schemes of work, because there's a lot there for the environmental projects. Public sector decarbonisation scheme on the remaining leisure centres, that's been confirmed now that PSDS funding will not continue, so the team are looking to see what else can happen. So that project is off track because again of the external issues. And then there were 5 projects within governance and corporate services that weren't progressed in quarter 1 because of the lack of a Caroline. So where the projects are off track, work is done to find why that is, and the managers are asked to sort of give an indication of what will happen then and what is the next steps, what's required. Do they need resources? Is it something that will pull itself around or whatever? So that's the corporate plan projects. I'll take this off now. Would it be helpful for you to ask if there's any questions on them? Or would you like to do KPIs and then we'll do questions at the end?
I think carry on.
Okay.
You're doing well.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Actually, I will put the I think KPI. Nope.
Oh, you did.
No.
Just, it was
I did.
slow.
It was
Do
a bit
again.
slow. I was too slow, wasn't I?
There you go. Look.
There we are. Lovely. Thank you. So, I'm personally very, very pleased to tell you that the 2025 resident survey showed 66% of residents were very or fairly satisfied with the way Derbyshire Dales District Council runs things. It's a lovely green, that nice first one on the left. It's a significant increase from the 2023 survey figure of 60.5% and well above target. And that was one of my consultation projects, so very pleased to see that outcome. We had very good response rates and really pleased. As I said, after amendments to the clean and green KPIs, 73.3% of street cleansing and litter incidents were resolved within time targets, and 91.49% of fly tipping incidents were resolved within targets. So they were very pleased. I don't know if you do remember back to previous reports, their figures were coming in at kind of 40% and 60%, and they were very keen to get to the bottom of why it wasn't reflecting the situation on the ground when they knew that things were being, very, very promptly dealt with. Our 4 planning indicators were still green, For major and non-major applications, this is them coming in and then whether or not they're overturned on appeal. Abandoned calls continues to be excellent. Out of 7,333 calls received in Q1, only 13 were abandoned, which is where people ring off because they think that no one's going to answer, or a figure of 0.18%. So figure any call centre would be exceptionally proud of. There were some unsuccessful results. It is only Q1, so sickness levels were slightly above target at 2.47 days against 2.25 days. I imagine it's likely that that would sort itself over the year to come, but I know that HR will be closely monitoring that and putting in place what they need to do. The new indicator for the percentage of active corporate plan projects on track was slightly below target at 74%, so that was a little bit disappointing. And the new indicator for resolution speed of dog fouling and needles was slightly below the target of 80%, at 67.71% cleared in time. So they will be looking at that and seeing if there's more improvements that can be made there. And that is pretty much the end. It's been a fairly positive performance, I think. Most indicators are green. If I quickly stroll through, if I can try to stroll through this one, I haven't got a down arrow. It's not moving. There's a lot of green showing on this one. I'm a bit worried it's too small for you to see, so I might let you have a look at that one. That is Appendix 2, so that will be in your paper pack. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you very much, Claire. As usual, a very interesting report and also very attractive report to receive. So thank you very much. I thought the appendices, particularly the ones where I go through each of the projects, was very useful, and I found it quite intriguing to find out where we were on individual projects. But last time I had quite a few comments, but tonight I don't think I have any myself. So just one.
Thank you. I would agree. Very encouraging, actually, and really great to see those figures. I just got one question. It's a slight aside. In terms of things like the needles issues, dog fouling, you mentioned also fly tipping. Is there a place where councillors individually can check by ward how that's progressing for particular wards? I mean, I have a couple of places where fly tipping happens, and I do see the response to concur with the information you've got here in terms of the responses, because the responses are brilliant, particularly also where there's issues of asbestos, which has happened a few times in the last 3 years around where I live and in my ward. But I just wondered, apart from seeing that happening, oh, sorry, yes, it says Cromford and Matlock Bath on my, and I'm in the Green Party all of a sudden. I'm not taking offence at that, but it is Brailsford. I just wonder whether councillors could actually, is there a place where we can view information by ward of the particular issues that might be related to some of those figures?
It's a really interesting question. Thank you, Councillor. And I will feed back to the Clean and Green team your very positive comments. I'm sure they'll be delighted to hear that. When reports come in, I know that for a fact that they're obviously recorded by location, and it comes through our customer relationship management system, which is where the reports and so on are run from. I do not know whether ward-based data is included or whether the wards are mapped to the CRM. I don't know if Caroline would have any greater. What I can do is go back to the team and just ask if that is something that can be done. It might be that there'd be another way of doing it, of say picking out particular streets and looking at the rates for a street where we could compare data for a specific location. I'm not sure is the genuine answer. We will certainly investigate and see if it can be done.
I had a similar thought. It was that we could produce heat maps showing where fly tipping was happening and dog fouling and littering. That might help, and from the heat map you'll be able to tell which ward the events were occurring in. Laura.
Hi Claire, are you able to elaborate on why the planning enforcement KPIs have been suspended? Do you know any more about that?
Yes. When Gavin took over, he had concerns that the data he was providing was not matching up to the work on the ground. So that Uniform, the system that they use for planning enforcement, was not giving correct figures. And apparently there's been a lot of work done on this, but we have got a bit of a backlog of possibly inaccurate data or data that has not been properly closed off in the database. So it's a very technical issue. Lots of people have looked at it, digital transformation have looked at it. I know that Suzanne Norton's section, her technical business services, have looked into it. I think it's going to require a decision on what resources can be allocated to solve it. And that's the crux of it. It sounds like we need to do some kind of database clean, but it can't be done by temps or admins because it's quite technical. It would need to be suitably qualified staff. So there's quite a resourcing implication. We're looking at other options. One of the things we suggested is only running reports from a certain point. So possibly, rather than saying how many cases have we got, in which case you throw up everything that's ever happened and not been closed since 2017, but can we only look at the last quarter? So we've got some suggestions. I know that it's been put to our new development manager, Chris Dale, and I think he's liaising with Steve, the director, and Gavin, the planning enforcement manager, to try and come up with a solution to how it works the way it should.
Right, so there's no, it's just purely a technical thing, and there's no service interruption as such to planning enforcement.
No. It's just purely that. For example, Gavin will say, I know that we've worked on 35 enforcements and my team have done this amount of work, and then the report would say they'd done 2, and that's clearly not right. So on investigation, it's the way that over the years Uniform has been used, different processes have gone on over the years, and it means that a whole picture is very disjointed and it's not giving what you'd hope, unfortunately. I hope I'm not spoken out of turn now for my planning colleagues.
Roger, can I?
Thank you. Yes, yet another excellent report, Claire. Thank you. I just follow on that point very briefly in that that issue of planning enforcement is a really, really important one as far as residents go. So I would back any swift resolution to that, even if it's a question of narrowing the field of data that's being analysed. It's one of those things that we constantly get questions about. How long is this thing going to take? Is the classic question. Just a couple of very, very quick other points, if that's okay. You mentioned about the staff sickness as one of the KPIs there. It would be interesting to know, and I appreciate you're always the bearer of the messages here. You're not necessarily the person who can answer this. It would be interesting to know if there's a breakdown between short and long-term sickness and how that's affecting that figure, and also whether it's concentrated in particular teams and departments.
There would be a lot of GDPR and data protection implications around sickness data because it's obviously personal and confidential. I'm very confident that our HR colleagues are all over it. There are different strategies for dealing with long-term sickness and short-term and different policies, so they will be well aware of that. Because it just pulls up the total, that difference is smoothed over.
I get that. I think, the reason for asking is really, from our point of view, to be able to identify if there are particular pressures on particular teams that might be coming out in that data. Now, I'm fairly sure that would eventually come to our attention, but one of the beauties of this is that I know you're reporting on a sort of a quarter after, but in relative terms, that is actually almost real-time information for something like that. So it's just making use of the data. My other question is completely different, and it's just the only reference I could see to, I'm going to mention the word traveller sites here, is on page 53. So it doesn't seem to appear as a project which is behind schedule or, heaven help us, ahead of schedule. I wish it were. All it says is that, and this is the finding of permanent sites, I'm hoping, CPJ 132, that we appear to be awaiting the ARC report to community and environment. So my only comment on that is, was there a timescale set for that report to be done? And do we have a sense of what happens if it doesn't go to the next Community Environment Committee? Because, to my mind, we've been waiting on this for a very, very long time, and we need to know where it sits in our performance recording, because it does reflect hugely on the reputation of the council.
They're really good questions, thank you, Councillor. Yeah, I would say that we come to the end of quarter two at the end of this month, 12 days, I believe. So at that point, we will then summarise the performance in quarter two. So that should answer your question in due course. Would you prefer me to see if I could find more information slightly sooner?
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, I can certainly ask the housing team if there are any dates or anything around that to add to their update.
I think that's particularly important because it also impacts on the local plan, and so we need to understand what sites, as a matter of priority, for the local plan.
Yeah.
So will that be circulated to members of this committee?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, yes. Do you mind if I return to the subject of planning enforcement? Because there's just one thing that has crossed my mind that you might find interesting. One of the things that Gavin was at our planning enforcement manager was at pains to stress was the tension between what would perceive to be a good outcome and what actually is a good outcome. Because he said, if you take the total number of enforcement actions, then to show that they've worked hard, you would like to see that really high. We took loads of people to court and we got them. But he said, actually, that's a failure by the planning enforcement team, because what their goal is at all times is to keep the council out of court and to resolve everything through letters, emails, visits, negotiation, compromise. So he said there's a tension there in that members want to see this measure showing progress, showing work. But he said, actually, if we're doing really well and we're doing our job, the opposite will be true. You'll see total enforcement actions as zero. So that's one of the things that we're also looking at, is considering how best to display their work in the way that shows you what they're doing in an appropriate way. And I think Chris did suggest that there might be a case for just removing the ones that we're using and going for something that is more like responsiveness to planning enforcement inquiries. So if someone phones in on a Monday, has it been dealt with by Wednesday? Has it been dealt with by Friday? What time did it take for someone to actually take up that complaint and deal with it? So there is investigations ongoing as to how best to provide appropriate and meaningful information on planning enforcement.
Roger.
Yeah, just on that one, I think the thing that usually concerns our residents is the length of time that a particular case seems to go on for. I appreciate sometimes it's a question of those people who are involved coming back and carrying out some measures and not satisfying everything. So, there's complex issues here, but getting some grasp on the time period that things take, rather than necessarily just responding in the first instance, would probably be of more interest, I think.
think,
Just a quick comment on that, Chair. I mean, I do appreciate your comments on that, and the fact that it can be seen as a failure to finally get through the legal route of enforcement. It was certainly a conversation we were having on Tuesday at licensing, because obviously there was a question asked about how many times have we enforced something, and the same conversation took place actually. Was that, well, there's a whole range of measures that we might take which are successful, which don't then show on the figure of enforcement because we've been successful in our conversations, our deliberations with people who are lagging behind in particular areas. One of the questions was around dog breeding and so on. So, I mean, I do appreciate that, and I think it's a really important point to bring. Thank you.
yes, and I agree as well. I think the issue is reasonableness, and the enforcement always has to show that they have been reasonable, and that is reasonable in terms of the action that they take, but also the length of time they allow for changes to take place by the person who's suffering from that. And therefore, probably an understanding of the timescales and how many actions are taken within the expected timescales would be an interesting measure.
When I was last discussing this, I was explicit to mention that this had been specifically requested as a performance measure by members of the Scrutiny Committee because they were interested in this work. So that message did go along that people are looking to see what is happening and get some information.
Jo.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, Claire, thank you. I think that was really important because it helps us to manage expectations from members of the public, because understandably, they make a complaint and they want something, but like fly tipping, they want it to be sorted overnight, and it's not always possible. A lot of the cases can become incredibly complex, and I think that's really helpful. Thank you, to help manage expectations. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on this report? Are there any actions that we should be taking as a consequence of the report? I know we've had one which is feeding back on enforcement parameters, criteria. Are there any others? No. Okay. All right. That's fine. Would anybody like to move the 3 recommendations for this particular report? And the recommendations are: the outturn performance against Q1 Derbyshire Dales plan targets for 2025-26 be noted. The outturn performance against Q1 key performance indicators for 2025-26 be noted, and that reports continue to be presented to members of the Scrutiny Committee to highlight progress, demonstrate good performance, and address areas for improvement. Thank you. And any second? Laura. Okay, thank you very much. So all those in favour? And that's unanimous again. I think is that the last item? That is the last item. So thank you very much for coming tonight. And when is the next meeting? Do we have a date? December, is it? Okay. So see you all in this meeting, in this committee in December. Thank you.